I know a lot of people who are watching right now are going to feel exhausted with their own sexual sin. The kind of, what's that rotating door, of like, I'm going to get better, I'm going to go to confession, I feel better, I fell, I go to confession, I feel better, I fell, I'm tempted, I fell. You once shared a story about some Asian priest or Asian brother who dealt with maybe addiction to opioids or something.
Yeah,
Could you share that story? Because I found that it applies a lot to people who are exhausted and fed up with their own sin.
Yeah, a friend of mine is always reading saint books, and I saw him, you reading any good saint books? And he's like, yeah, I'm reading about saints and addictions. I'm like, oh, that's cool, like saints who help people with their addictions. And he said, no, like the addicted saints. And I'm like, I don't remember reading them in catechism class. Who were they? And he said, well, check out this guy, Saint Mark Zhicheng Zhang from China. This guy was a husband, a father, a doctor, got a stomach ailment, and so he treated himself with a drug that was used at that time, which is opium. And the illness went away, but then a drug addiction remained in its place. So he goes to confession. Hey, Father, forgive me. I've become addicted to this drug. And so the priest gave him absolution, some pastoral advice, and he went away and he went back to the drugs, and then he went back to confession. Addiction, confession. Sound familiar? And the priest eventually said to him, now, because you keep going back to the drugs, it tells me you're not really sorry. And so I would ask you to no longer come back to confession until you've overcome this, and don't receive Holy Communion anymore. And so the priest just didn't know how to respond to this as a mental illness, an addiction, all that, which is obviously really bad pastoral advice to give, but Mark obeyed him, and he still went to mass with his family, and he was still an upstanding doctor, but secretly in the shadows struggling with this. And then eventually it became known, and there was shame there. And a month went by, no sacraments. It became a year, 10, 20, 30 years.
What's his name again?
Saint Mark Zhi, which is Xi Cheng Zhang, which I think Jiang Zhang. So you can just spell that. So Saint Mark Zhi Cheng Zhang. Thursday I can pull it up. So yeah, do just Saint Mark and then Xi, and they'll come up Opium Addict.
I'll slack it to you.
And so like 30 years go by, and he's at the point now just praying, God, just make me a martyr. I can't see any way I'm gonna get to heaven. And so what happened is God answered his prayer for martyrdom, and the Boxer Rebellion came into China, and they started rounding up and executing Christians. And so he and 9 members of his family were dragged off to the place of torture and death. And his grandson said to him, like, where are we going? And Mark said, we're going home. And they brought him into the place of torture, and they started cutting off all the heads of the members of his family. And he begged the torturers to kill him last, so that no one in the family would have to die without him being by their side to encourage them to be faithful to the end. And one by one, they cut off the heads of everybody in his family, until at last he was beheaded as he was singing the litany of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And now he's a canonized saint who died addicted to opium, which is like proof that the saint is the one who doesn't have a mess in their life. They're the one who gives their mess utterly to Jesus Christ. And that's why like good priests, the spiritual direction will say, the number one thing the devil wants you to do after sin is to lose your peace. Yeah. Do not lose your peace. Because it's a sign of pride. Like, I'm so astonished I would screw up. Like, I thought I was, at least venerable material here. And now here I am messing up,
That's to sales, right?
Yeah, keep your peace after a fall.
Hey, thanks for watching that clip. Would you like this beautiful, very high quality, definitely not made in China, not that there's anything wrong with that, Pints with Aquinas beer stein for free, sent to your door? Would you also like a copy of The Jill sent to your door 4 times a year? This is the Pints with Aquinas newspaper, by the way. If you do, go to mattfradd.locals.com and become an annual supporter for any amount. We'll send you that stuff for free, and you get a bunch of other free things in return. You'll get more information by going over to mattfradd.locals.com. Thanks.